On today's show, we'll be checking in on some of the biggest risers from the 2024 NHL Draft, highlighted by Cole Hutson and Ilya Protas.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this show, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Sebastian High, the USHL scout over at Elite Prospects, and on today's show, we'll be delving back into the 2024 NHL draft class, finishing off a little series that we did over the course of the past couple of weeks. We did 3 episodes checking in on the players drafted in the first round, and today I've selected 15 players to check in on from rounds 2 to 7 who have really progressed their games in interesting ways that I think that fans should be made aware of. So we have 15 names to highlight today, which is going to make it a bit more of a quick fire kind of episode, but we're still going to get digging into a lot of stats, a lot of habits that these players have in their games, and what they've been growing this season in particular. But before we jump into the entire show for the day, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So let's jump straight into the show here. And in this first segment, we have 5 prospects selected on day 2 of the draft. These are all players that were selected in the second and third rounds. And kicking things off here is the player that is highlighting the show here today, and that is Cole Hutson of Boston University, selected by the Washington Capitals at 43rd overall in the second round. Clearly, NHL teams learned a little bit from the Lane Hutson thing. He didn't quite fall as far as his older brother did, but still fell to day 2 of the draft, despite being also a June 28th birthday, very young for last year's draft class. And he has been on fire in terms of offense this season at Boston University. He's completely taken over the role that his brother vacated for him this season. In 33 games, he has 12 goals and 39 points. That is production that I think Boston University fans have come to expect from a Hutson on the blue line. It makes Cole Hutson the second leading point scorer on the team, behind only Quinn Hutson, a forward, older brother of both Cole and Lane. But it's been a good season here for Cole Hutson, not just to be over a point a game as a rookie defenseman in the NCAA and to be second on team scoring on Boston University, while completely outproducing players like Cole Yzerman, for instance. It's that he's rounded out his game on the defensive side of the puck a little bit as well. He's a more fluid skater than Lane Hutson is in terms of his pivots. He still has to add a lot more lower body strength to project to the NHL level to gain that bit more explosiveness, but he's going to be doing this over the course of the next couple of seasons. And I've already seen a distinct shift this season where it's gotten better for this player. And he's also been playing with the real chippy, physical, and violent at times edge. He has 60 penalty minutes in 33 games this season, and a lot of that has also just come from cross checks at the net front. And he's been playing a real physical brand of hockey in big minutes in the NCAA. He's had multiple 27-minute games in the last 10. He's only played less than 20 twice in his last 10 appearances. And in his last 10 games, he also has 7 goals and 17 points. He's on a hot streak at the minute. And if he were doing a redraft right now, Cole Hutson would be a first round of draft selection on many boards. And he was a first round selection on my personal ranking last year. I believe he finished around 23rd overall on my personal rankings. But moving on, next we have Harrison Brunick. We'll be doing this episode in order of where they were drafted. So we're just descending, going through the second round all the way to the later picks. But Harrison Brunick of the Pittsburgh Penguins, selected 44th overall, is a 6'3", 203-pound right shot defenseman who played very well in rookie camp and training camp at the beginning of the season. And since going back to the WHL with the Kamloops Blazers, he's been an absolute force. He's so proactive in how he uses handling ability to access access space to create lanes for both himself and for teammates. And while he does not play on a very strong team, Kamloops has only 3 wins in their last 10. It's just not been a very strong season for this team, but Brunick has been a consistent force on the blue line. 4 goals, 27 points in 35 games. Doesn't jump off the page entirely in terms of offensive production, but is a notable step up from last year where he had 21 in 49 games. But he's been really dynamic and just lacking that surrounding skill to translate into eye-popping production. But this is a player that I think projects really well with the mobility, the rush defending, the handling. These are all significantly above average assets. And there's a reason that so many of the scouts that I work closely with are huge fans of this player, because he plays such a projectable brand of hockey that's going to also have room to grow into a dynamic offensive role at the NHL level. And in terms of right shot defense prospects, he's quite clearly the top one in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, and he's progressed really nicely since draft day. Moving on, we have Nikita Artemonov, selected by the Carolina Hurricanes at 50th overall in 2024. 5'11", 192-pound left shot winger, can play on both sides, on both wings. And he is just such an intense player, nonstop motor, really good playmaking, give and goes, high pace. Been playing excellent hockey in the KHL this season. He's at 21 goals and 37 points in 58 KHL games this campaign. The production has slowed. In his last 10 games, he's only recorded points in 3 of the 10 games, but one of those was a 4-point performance in 9 minutes and 40 seconds of ice time. But the responsibilities have decreased quite notably compared to earlier on this season. There was a stretch in the fall where Artemonov was playing pretty consistent top 6 minutes, but at this point has been relegated back to the middle 6 more often than not, and even the 4th line at times. But still, in terms of NHL projection with the Carolina Hurricanes, bringing a bunch of energy, playmaking upside in terms of a future middle 6 piece for Carolina, which they have seemingly 25 of in their prospect pool that project as potential middle 6 contributors in the not too distant future. I think Artemonov is among the more refined of that bunch and has played some excellent hockey this season and is looking like a real steal at 50th overall. But let's move on to Teddy Stiga, the last player of the second round for this first segment. He is a 5'10", 179-pound left winger who was drafted by the Nashville Predators at 55th overall, playing with Boston College in the NCAA. And he has been playing some fantastic hockey, especially since coming back from the World Junior Championship. He's up to 13 goals and 29 points in 33 games, so just under a point a game there in second line minutes with Boston College. That's good for 5th on the team in points, behind, of course, the big 3 with Leonard, Perreault, and Higgins, as well as his line mate Andre Gusseau. But he's been really impactful in terms of leveraging the high motor and the playmaking and inside drive and creativity to create a bunch of offense off the rush, especially. Been a really valuable depth scorer here for Boston College. And in his last 10 games, he's at a point a game, basically, with 9 points. 4 goals in those 10, and he's been playing just some really solid minutes in the last 10 games. Also been playing more than half of those games have been over 19 minutes of ice time in the NCAA for a freshman. He's getting responsibilities. He's getting trust at Boston College. Nashville Predators fans, he got an absolute gem. This was a first-round talent in my book, and he seems to be that in hindsight here as well. But checking in on him here, he has been developing really, really nicely and played fantastic hockey in a bit more of a depth capacity for Team USA at the World Juniors as well. But to wrap up this first segment, we have Ilya Protas, another Washington Capital, here to bookend the first segment. And at 6'5", 201 pounds as a left shot left winger, he was a player with some really interesting physical tools last season, playing in the USHL with Des Moines. But this season, he has absolutely exploded in terms of production since moving over to the OHL and the Windsor Spitfires after being drafted 75th overall as a July 18th birthday. So just 2 months off of the cutoff for the 2026 draft. So quite young for last year's draft year. He's gone to the OHL and alongside Liam Greentree scored 45 goals and 108 points in 57 games so far. In his last 10, he has 9 goals and 25 points. He has been completely alight. And so much of this has been coming from being a solid net front presence, getting to those dangerous areas, but more than anything, it's been give and go combinations with Liam Greentree. It's been their chemistry, their bond as line mates that has really led to the vast majority of production for both of these players. And it's the reason that they stand head and shoulders above even the third closest point scorer then on the Windsor Spitfires. And to combine with a player like Liam Greentree, who is so intelligent, so skilled, really, really like adept in terms of all the puck skills, from playmaking to goal scoring to handling. Protas has really shown his ability to keep up with that pace, both physically and mentally this season. And while he's definitely still more raw than perhaps his point scoring would suggest, he needs at least another like 2 or 3 seasons before he's an NHL player, in my opinion. The production has been absurdly good this season, and I think Capitals fans can be rather excited to have a second high-scoring Protas brother in their ranks this campaign. But that wraps things up here for the first segment. In the next one, we'll be continuing with third and fourth round draft selections. But first, a quick message from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospects. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for an even bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every single moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's keep things going here in the second segment, kicking things off with a Carolina Hurricanes prospect. We have prospects from all over the league in this segment, from the Hurricanes, from the Buffalo Sabres, from recently acquired from the Boston Bruins, the Winnipeg Jets, as well as the Ottawa Senators. So lots of Atlantic Division prospects here today. But let's kick things off from the Carolina Hurricanes with Noel Fransen, a left shot defenseman who stands at 6'1" and 187 pounds, drafted at 69th overall in the third round. And he's a really mobile defenseman who leverages that mobility to create a lot of offense off the rush. He's a really creative player from the point in terms of walking the blue line, changing angles in the offensive zone, and quickly passing and repositioning. He's very much a pass and move kind of player in the offensive zone, and often attacks the gaps that he's able to access there as well. And this season, he's been playing professional hockey in Sweden's second tier, Hockey Allsvenskan, with Västerås. And in 50 games, he's scored 3 goals and 20 points, and while playing mainly third pairing, sometimes second pairing minutes. And he's also gotten into a single SHL game with Färjestad BK, in which he played a full 18 minutes. So he got one full SHL game under his belt this season as a taste test, but has mainly been playing in Hockey Allsvenskan. And the production hasn't been the hottest as of late, only 1 assist in his last 10 games. But what he's been doing so effectively has been facilitating in the breakout, helping in terms of gaining entries. He's a really comfortable puck handling defenseman, and he's improved his passing ability at pace this season as well under professional level pressure, which has been really great to see. And I think the Carolina Hurricanes got a really, really mobile, deft defenseman here that should have probably been a top 50 pick in terms of how he plays the game. And I know the Carolina Hurricanes scouting staff very much believed he should have been a top 50 pick or top 32 pick on draft day. We're very excited to get him in the third round. And he's been progressing really nicely this season. He's going to need some seasons to progress into an NHL talent, but at 6'1", he has the size to, I think, make the jump to the NHL. He has some decent lower body strength as well, so a lot of aspects that I think will make the leap a little bit easier for him. But speaking of projectable prospects, Brody Zemer certainly comes to mind. Of the Buffalo Sabres, drafted in the third round, 71st overall, 5'11", 196-pound right shot right winger who was the captain of the NTDP last season, has had a really comfortable start to his NCAA career with 23 points, including 12 goals in 36 games at the University of Minnesota. And he also had 3 goals and 7 points at the World Junior Championship in middle 6 minutes. So he's a player that just plays with a bunch of heart, a lot of intensity. He has a pretty good shot. He gets into goal scoring positions. He plays with physical edge, even at 5'11", 196. He's a sturdy guy, difficult to move off the puck, decent defensive impact. It definitely has a lot of work rate throughout the game. And in terms of the level of play that I've seen from him in the NCAA this season, he's been dominating some shifts, just taking over some games, getting quite a few shots on goal. I watched a game where he got 5 shots against Ohio State in a game where he played 17 minutes and 42 seconds, getting a lot of top 6 opportunities as of late there in Minnesota, and just a lot to like with how he's progressed his game here this season. But moving on, we have Will Zellers, now of the Boston Bruins, but he was selected by the Colorado Avalanche in the 3rd round at 76th overall last draft. 5'11", 170-pound winger. He can play center as well, but in terms of NHL projections, is most comfortable on the wing. And he has been a goal-scoring machine this season in the USHL with the Green Bay Gamblers. He was drafted out of the USHS prep circuit last season, so this has been his rookie campaign in the USHL, and 38 goals and 60 points in 42 games in the USHL, is 2nd in points per game league-wide, is 2nd in points league-wide, 1st in goals by a country mile, and he's just been dominant there with Green Bay, combining really nicely with another cerebral goal scorer in Aiden Park, and things have just been going very smoothly for him this season. So getting traded at the deadline in that Charlie Coyle and Casey Middlestat trade was probably a shock for this young player after such a fantastic season, but he now immediately becomes one of the more creative and skilled goal scorers in the Boston Bruins depth chart in the prospect pool. I think he'll fit in terms of what they need, what they're missing in the prospect pool, but is definitely going to still have to grow a decent amount physically, especially to make that jump to the NHL. But he's going over to the NCAA next season with the University of North Dakota, which will be a good place for him to fill out his frame a little bit and work a bit on the defensive habits as well, while building up the playmaking. But the intelligence, the goal score, and the off-puck routes are all really refined, and a player I think Boston Bruins fans should be excited about. Moving on, we have Kevin He of the Niagara Ice Dogs, picked by the Winnipeg Jets in the 4th round at 109th overall. The Chinese international is a 6-foot, 181-pound left winger, and he had a wicked start to the season in Niagara as the captain this year, but has cooled off a little bit recently. He's now at 69 points, and including 32 goals in 56 games there. He plays with edge. He plays with heart. He's been really inside driven this season, and the shooting threat, I think, has become a lot more dangerous. Just the power at which the puck leaves his stick has really taken a step this season. And with his speed, he's been a real transition force in terms of scoring off the rush for Niagara this year. But to finish off this second segment, we have another OHL player with Blake Montgomery of the London Knights, and he is a 6'4", 196-pound left winger picked by the Ottawa Senators in the 4th round at 117th overall. And ever since moving over to the OHL with the London Knights, he has been playing some fantastic hockey. The scoring has definitely calmed down a little bit in recent weeks. He only has 5 points, including just a single goal in his last 10 games, but he has 48 points and 22 goals this season in 45 games since transferring from the Lincoln Stars in the USHL, and has just been a great fit in that second line capacity for the London Knights this year. He can play on the 3rd line as well, bringing a lot of physicality, but it's the speed, the skill, the shooting threat, and the vision that make him so endearing as an NHL prospect with upside. And he's definitely taking some steps in his development this season, but would probably also benefit from playing a bigger role at the junior level than he's playing in London at the moment. But that wraps things up for the second segment. In the final one, we're going to wrap up the show with the last 5 prospects in this episode, drafted between the 4th and 5th rounds of the draft. But first, a quick message from our sponsors. Alrighty, let's wrap up the episode here in the final segment with the last 5 prospects of the episode. Those names are going to be Thomas Mercick of the St. Louis Blues, Tyler Thorpe of the Montreal Canadiens, Luke Misa of the Calgary Flames, as well as Justin Poirier of the Carolina Hurricanes, and Kieron Walton, another Winnipeg Jets prospect. Jets have a couple pretty good late round picks here this year out of the OHL, but let's kick things off with Thomas Mercick, who has absolutely been relishing the trade that he had in the offseason, where he got moved from the Medicine Hat Tigers to the Prince Albert Raiders, where he's become immediately one of the primary offensive threats there in Prince Albert. Not as strong of a team as Medicine Hat, but one where he's able to leverage his pacey skill to just take over shifts with a lot more regularity than he would have done in Medicine Hat. He's a 6 foot, 170-pound left shot center / winger who was picked in the 4th round at 113th overall, and he has 32 goals and 83 points in 59 games this season. In the last 10 games, it's been a little bit colder. The last 3 games have been held pointless, but he's constantly buzzing around the net, getting shots off. In his last 10 games, he has 6 shots in 4 of them, 5 shots in a pair of them, 4 shots in another couple. So constantly getting pucks to the net, and he plays with speed. He's a direct attacker, but that release is just packed with deception and power, and is a real threat that I think is going to translate to being a second power play weapon in the NHL if all goes to plan in his development. But this is a player that I think was really underrated in his draft year, who's taken a lot of good steps in the right direction. And I think that Blues fans have a right to be rather excited about his projection. But let's move on to a big right winger, 6'5", 214 pounds, Tyler Thorpe of the Montreal Canadiens, an August 11th, 2005 birthday. So he was drafted as a D+1 talent after scoring 23 goals and 44 points in Vancouver last season. This year, his production has been relatively similar, 26 goals, 49 points in 62 games, but the all-around game has taken leaps and bounds since being drafted, and that was even apparent earlier on this season. Even at training camp with the Montreal Canadiens, Thorpe really stood out, not just for his physicality, but his inside drive, his ability to get a wicked shot off under pressure through contact. And he's just constantly taking pucks from the wall to the middle of the ice, getting shots off, blending his shooting into his crossovers, and overall just punishing opponents on both sides of the puck. He's a guy that, even though the production hasn't been dominant this season, is certainly a player I still see as a bottom 6 projection in the NHL, who can bring some depth goal scoring, but just so much physicality and pace and inside drive, who plays the game the way that coaches want players to play the game at the NHL level. But let's move on to a smaller forward, but who's been scoring in bounds this season, and that is Luke Misa of the Calgary Flames and the Brampton Steelheads in the OHL. The older brother of Michael Misa of this year's draft class. He's 5'10" and 176 pounds. Also a centerman, and he has 32 goals and 78 points in 61 games this campaign. But what he's just been doing night in, night out with the Brampton Steelheads is being a dominant rush attacker and being really quite reliable on the defensive side as well. He's a capable playmaker, constantly prodding at defensive structures. In my opinion, a great compliment to both Porter Martone and Carson Raykopf when he plays with them, which hasn't been the most regular thing this season. But when he's playing with them, he's playing some fantastic hockey. He's a player that I think can really elevate higher skill line mates, because he is so pacey. He's so direct as an attacker, such a puck-carrying workhorse. He reminds me in certain ways of more of a playmaking version of Alex Newhook, if you want an NHL comparable. But in terms of how he leverages the speed, how comfortable he is at pace with his puck handling, and how he's able to break down defensive structures in transition, I think that there are certainly some similarities there. But he's been playing some fantastic hockey this year, and I think has some real middle 6 upside for the Calgary Flames longer term. He's probably going to still need another 2 to 3 years to develop into an NHL piece. But when he arrives as an NHLer, I think that he is going to pop off as a transition workhorse right off the bat. But let's move on to an absolute sniper here as the second to last player of today's episode, and that is Justin Poirier, selected by the Carolina Hurricanes in the 5th round, 156th overall last season. Player I definitely don't think deserved to fall nearly as far as he did on draft day for so many reasons. Not only was he the first CUM JHL draft eligible to score 50 goals since Sidney Crosby, scoring 51 and 82 points in 68 games with Baie-Comeau last year, he completely one-upped himself in the postseason last campaign, scoring 18 goals in 17 games, 27 points, ridiculous production, but beyond the raw numbers, what makes this player so enticing is that despite being a 5'9" sniper, he's 183 pounds. He's a pretty heavy frame. He's sturdy on his feet, difficult to knock off puck, and ceaselessly violent. He doesn't just initiate contact, he seeks it out like a heat-seeking missile at times. He loves to get into the gritty areas, and that goal-scoring ability, and it is definitely a threat from range. It reminds me a bit of like Nick Lardis, for instance, in terms of the power play capability and the scoring threat from distance. But in tight, he's able to make so much with so little in tight spaces. He's a really good puck handler, and this season, 43 goals, 80 points in 58 games this campaign. He's just been an absolute goal-scoring machine in the CUM JHL, and I think that he's taken some real steps in his development as well in terms of the off-puck support habits, in terms of the positioning off the rush, being consistently in passing lanes for teammates to be able to find him in, and also in the defensive zone of getting underneath opponent's skin and applying a bunch of pressure, which he's always been doing on the forecheck, but we've been seeing a bit more in the D zone this campaign. So some decent progression there for Poirier, who still projects as a real potential second line sniper in the NHL if all goes to plan. And also, he's a September 4th, 06 birthday. He was 11 days off the cutoff to be eligible for the 2026 NHL draft. If that doesn't quite encapsulate why this is a steal of a pick for the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm not quite sure what will. The Canes just keep getting a bunch of value late in the draft. But let's wrap up the show here with the final player that we want to highlight here today, and that's Kieron Walton of the Sudbury Wolves in the OHL, drafted by the Winnipeg Jets in the 6th round at 187th overall. He's a 6'6", 212-pound center/left wing. He can play both positions, but he's a really skilled passer. He can slip pucks underneath defenders' sticks to open teammates driving the net. And this season, he's really explored the goal-scoring part of his game as well. In 59 games in Sudbury, he has 36 goals and 86 points. He's just been a constant threat in and around the net front. Been much more of a net front presence this year than last, and just constantly picking up pucks, picking up rebounds, getting pucks onto shots for deflections, and being a real nuisance to play against. So a lot to like there for the Winnipeg Jets, with another steal of a pick out of the OHL late in the 2024 draft. But that wraps things up here for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. That wraps things up for our show today, breaking down 15 of the biggest risers from the 2024 NHL draft between rounds 2 and 7. I think that these are 15 players that are progressing really well and give their respective fan bases a lot of reasons to be hopeful. But if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please do make sure to make us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, you're going to head on over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey, where Flip and Steel break down everything you need to know to build yourself a sustainable and competitive roster. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the episode. Which of these prospects stood out the very most to you in the past year? And who is the biggest riser overall in the 2024 draft class, including all 7 rounds of the draft? Let me know your thoughts below. But that wraps things up here for us today. I'm your host, Sebastian High. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you tune back in very, very soon.